Welcome to the If You Know You Grow podcast. My name is Chantel Braley, and I am going to be your host for the next however many minutes. This podcast has been created to help bring you behind the scenes of some incredible brands, hear some incredible stories, and make it so that it is no longer an if you know industry, because now it is all about if you know, you grow. Hello, and we are back again. We're actually back for like the fourth take of this exact episode because I don't know what it is about my brain, but when I try to like plan something out and script it, I really struggle, and then I don't like my tone, and so I'm like, nah, fuck it, let's re-record it. Let's make sure that we do it correctly. Everybody's probably feeling a little bit crazy at the moment, and I think this is really what has inspired this week's episode. So if you are watching along, you'll notice that my hair is a little bit crazy. We are in peak humid, peak planning season. And I don't actually have straight hair at all. I have like very thick, very wavy, multiple texture hair, which if you're a guy, you probably don't really care. But as a female, oh my God, my hair takes so much work. And that is the thing we have deprioritized this week with everything else that's happening. We have deprioritized the hair. We are not doing that at the moment. But before we get into today, I'm so happy that you're all here and listening. And I think I'm still in awe of the fact that I have people who want to hear me yap every single week. And I'm going to continue to add value and add more strategy. And I have some amazing guests that I'm actually going to be recording with this week. So I'm so excited. But a couple of things to kind of kick off with is if you go to chantelbraley.com, there's actually a registration of interest for an event that I'm having on the 6th of December. I know the podcast heard about it first, but we're in actually deep planning stages of it, and it's happening. Fucking full steam ahead, it is happening. So December 6th in Brisbane at my new space, we are going to have the event, and I am so excited. And I won't reveal too many of the details yet, but you are definitely going to be wined and dined a little bit because that's just my thing. And it wouldn't be me if we didn't have really great cocktails and snacks on offer. But also, it's just going to be fun. And, I've already had some people message me about I'm not a founder. I don't work in the industry. I don't know if this is right for me. One, if you want to have an expansive life, you have to be around expansive people. And there is no way around that. So you may not own a business, but if you work in the industry or in content, or it's something that you want to do, or you just want to have conversations with people who are doing big things, what a great way to put yourself in a room with those people. So many of my friends are people who aren't actually in the industry, but what they all have in common is that they are expansive thinkers, and they are people who are doing really fun things, cool things with life. And those fun and cool things can all be different. So don't feel as though you need to be an entrepreneur to get something out of it, because some of the best things that I've heard so far are from people who are listening to this who aren't in marketing, or who aren't entrepreneurs, or or people who are in solo businesses. And every bit of feedback is so powerful and so helpful. And I'm here showing up for kind of anybody who's willing to listen to me yap, I think, at this point. So that has been officially announced on socials. And I also have a name for my space. So I'll share it here first because look, it needs a lot of context, and I want to frame it before I get too carried away with today, because like I said, this is the fourth take of this podcast. So am I going to get to the point? We're not too sure. But the name of my space is Golden Hour. It is a pun, so it is Golden O-U-R, not Golden Hour with a H. Reason being is, on a non-pun sense, I love golden hour. It is my favorite time. Drinks at golden hour, let's go, right? The lighting's flattering, you're not tired. It's just such a vibe. You can still go to bed at a great time. It is my favorite time of day. But the studio has incredible lighting. And I thought about golden hour and the fact that hour is collaborative and a collective. So the Instagram handle that I've secured is Meet at Golden Hour, so O-U-R. And the tagline that I'm working with is daydream, create, and collaborate. Because to me, that is the purpose of this space. It is so that people can think expansively and try new things and have a little bit of fun. And it has great freaking lighting, because that was a really, really big part of why I wanted the space. Even at home currently in the clothes I've been wearing all day today, I have a ring light set up because OG makeup vibes, right? Lighting needs to be on point. It needs to be flattering. So that's, I guess, kind of the the name and the purpose, and it took me forever. The hardest thing I think actually I've now decided about owning a business is deciding on a freaking name for the business, especially because so many cool businesses have names that actually mean nothing, but like you don't know if it's going to help or hinder your business by having that name. So I've ran it by a couple people whose opinions I cared about and they've loved it. And then the people who haven't loved it or haven't liked it are people who like are not the target demographic anyways. So if you don't get it, then I'm totally fine with that. Um, and this all was kind of inspired by someone telling me that I should try to use a name that actually was a name that wasn't like something directly what it was. And I already knew I didn't want the name studio because it's not a photography studio. It's not an agency. I'm not an agency. So I kind of went on that vibe of, he had said, so and so's business is this. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. That's cool. And I kept running with that. And we've landed at golden hour. So I'm so excited. I'll probably actually announce this on socials maybe tomorrow or the next day. But you've got the inside tea because you're listening to me in your ears or your car, wherever I happen to be. So, right now, in the peak of Black Friday, Cyber Monday, pre Christmas, pre silly season, you're probably feeling a lot of different feelings. And I wanted to chat through what I think actually inspires some of the biggest growth as an individual, and that's discomfort. So, I firmly believe the best way to see personal growth is through becoming really comfortable in discomfort. It's kind of like that concept that you often hear, like, you're in an F45 class and it's a little bit crazy and toxic. And they're like, pain is weakness leaving the body. And look, whilst I don't really like that saying and I think it's a bit lame, it's kind of the concept. Your biggest opportunities of growth are going to come from things that make you uncomfortable or things that cause discomfort. Discomfort is legitimately like the rent that you pay to have an expansive life. So I'm totally okay with discomfort. It doesn't mean that I don't feel it, it just means that I don't let it run my life. So I wanted to chat through the difference between discomfort and dysregulation because those are two very different things. And eventually, I'll open up a bit about the dysregulation part because I went through an era of my life where I made bad choices. Actually, I've made several points in my life where I've done that. But when you are dysregulated, you make bad choices, you make bad judgment calls, you don't take care of yourself, and you ultimately lose yourself. And I've gone through that. I've gone through that in the last 5 years, and a lot of you guys have witnessed that. And what more people have witnessed is they've witnessed the glow up that I've had once I got into a state of regulation. So the last 2 years have been really a big focus on how do I regulate myself? How do I get rid of the toxic habits? How do I get past burnout? Because I allowed myself to really hit rock bottom and I almost needed to like recalibrate before I could get into my era of glow up. And if you're listening to this and you've known me, you're probably like, oh, you weren't at rock bottom. You were fine. You still did really well. I was doing really well, but I wasn't doing what I'm doing now. And I wasn't as happy. And I wasn't doing it with so much alignment and so much fulfillment and just literally waking up every single day, even if I know I have a 15-hour workday ahead of me, just so fucking excited and full of energy. I wasn't that person. I was struggling to sleep. I wasn't going to the gym. I wasn't taking care of myself. I was constantly anxious. I was worried that I was going to upset people. I wasn't thriving, but I was okay purely because of the fact that like I'm smart and, as we've chatted, I'm resilient. So I make sure that shit gets done. But it wasn't as good as it could have been if I was regulated. So if you are feeling genuinely dysregulated, and things that made me feel dysregulated were I gained a lot of weight. I was really irritable. I felt as though I had not a creative ounce left in me. I didn't really want to be public and be out and be chatty and be with my friends, which is completely outside of my personality. I wasn't as agile with work. I wasn't as passionate about the work. I felt really overwhelmed by it. I couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel. Those were all things that were proving that I was dysregulated. So if you are feeling those feelings, I would really encourage you to, once we get past this BFCM area, really like unpack it and make some time for yourself and figure out what you can do to regulate yourself, because that's something that really only you can do and you're going to have to put in work to be able to do that. But It's not a feeling that you should be feeling. You shouldn't feel dysregulated. And if you can even make small steps now to get out of that dysregulation, you're going to perform better. But what I'm actually talking about today, again, is not dysregulation, it is discomfort. So, as human beings, we are completely wired toward familiarity. We want things that are comfortable. We don't dislike trying new things, but we like routine. We flourish in routine. We like regulation. We like everything to be predictable. Discomfort means that you are doing something different. It generally means that you're being vulnerable. You're setting boundaries. You're not people pleasing anymore. You're being a little bit risky if you are somebody who is very, very risk adverse. You just are doing things differently than you've done before. And it's hard to put yourself out there and to openly chase discomfort. But one thing that I've learned is my biggest moments of growth have come from discomfort. I'm someone who's really comfortable with what I know, and I know what I know, and I don't doubt that. But when I started doing things like public speaking and even this podcast, it wasn't comfortable. Even being a theater kid, it wasn't comfortable. But I knew that with what I wanted to do in my career and the knowledge that I had to share and what I was really passionate about, that I needed to find channels to do that. So when I originally started this whole like podcast project, I started last October, so 13 months ago. I purchased a course and some coaching through Madeline Carafa. So Madeline is phenomenal, and she has worked with some of the top podcasts in Australia and in the world. She's had people like Tammy Hembrow on her podcast. She's been a top rated podcast. I think she's been like the top 4% multiple times. And she just really knows what she's doing. So I started working with her and I started thinking about concepts, and I would jump in and do some courses and I'd jump out of it, and I wasn't very consistent, but I ended up nailing an idea and, getting my branding done and getting my concept done. And then I just didn't record things because it was uncomfortable. I was so uncomfortable and I felt so much discomfort over the fact that this is the first time that I am not Chantel from NH or Chantel from Pedal and Pup or Chantel from wherever. I'm actually just out here being me. And anything that I say and any judgment that I get and anything that I continue to do is me putting out my personal brand. And that's something that's not comfortable. It's getting more comfortable and I've enjoyed every moment of it. So you can sit in the duality of like enjoying discomfort. I mean, I think there's entire realms of the world where you like things that are a little bit painful and a little bit comfortable. We have words for those, which is so funny because I actually have Viv Conway from Girls Get Off coming onto the pod this week for a taping. And so that kind of aligns really well. She might be the next guest. I'm not sure in which order this is going to be edited. But the concept of being uncomfortable and being okay with being uncomfortable is so foreign because your immediate reaction is to take care of yourself or to take care of the people around you and to like nurture it and to take it away. But like, no, get really comfortable with the concept of being uncomfortable. So some of the things that might make you uncomfortable as a founder or as a business owner or even just as a human being, one is like putting yourself out there. Putting yourself out there is so hard. And I think people think that it's really, really easy, but it feels unsafe. And social media is a really, really mean world. There's sometimes where my posts are shared and I'm like, I wonder why you were sharing it. Like, did you share it because you were celebrating me or did you share it because you wanted to say something? And I think it's because sometimes people are just mean. But I had to kind of sit in the fact that like, all right, well, everybody's going to talk shit, but I'm actually not here for the people who are talking shit. That's not the reason why I'm showing up. I'm here for the person who's going to message me and say, hey, you really changed my perspective on this, or my day was made better because of this, or this inspired me. Those are the reasons why I'm showing up. So like, if someone wants to boost my engagement by being shitty, then like, that's okay. Bring it. I'm okay with that. I've found comfort in the discomfort that I'm not actually for everybody, and that's okay. But if you're a founder who's not showing up for content, or you're someone who wants to be a content creator, the only way that you're actually going to get there is if you show up and you allow yourself to be uncomfortable. And you can kind of microdose the discomfort. I think if you show up in little capacities where you're consistently doing these things that make you feel uncomfortable, eventually they become routine and you become okay with it. And you also start to train your body that, like, hey, this was fine. I survived. I don't have to worry about it anymore. Other things that can make you feel uncomfortable can be boundary setting. So, boundary setting is one of the biggest things that I've learned this year. And a couple weeks ago, I actually set a boundary, and it was so funny because I was totally okay with setting that boundary. And I would have never been able to do that before. We were supposed to go see In the Heights, which is a musical down the Gold Coast at Hoda. You know, I was excited and I said yes to going to this event, and I had bought tickets for it, and all the girls were going, and it was going to be so much fun. And then Yentl and I kind of looked at each other after a long day and we're like, dude, do you want to go? And we were both like, nah, we'll stay home. And it's so funny because I didn't feel bad about that. And that is not something that I would have been able to do a year ago. And through, you know, Yentl being one of my five, and Yentl teaching me boundaries, and Yentl showing me that I can honor other people but still respect myself in that, I was able to be like, hey guys, we're staying home, and not freak out about, oh my God, what are they going to say? Am I disappointing somebody? And then you know what the silver lining of that is? There was actually a cast member whose parents didn't have tickets to the show. And because my girlfriends are loud and outgoing, they made friends with those parents and they were able to take our tickets. So yeah, I lost out a little bit of money. But do you know what? Someone who was actually really worthy and wanted to see the show more than me was able to go see the show. And I got to stay at home and rot on the couch with my best friend and watch two really ironic movies. When you're going through these levels of discomfort, often this discomfort is caused because of emotions. So emotions like fear or doubt or imposter syndrome. And I think the fear is usually like, oh, you know, I'm gonna upset somebody. And I think this is where, like, part of finding that comfort and discomfort is basically saying, like, hey, I'm totally okay with creating a boundary, because if somebody really loves me, then they know that I need this right now. And me choosing not to do this doesn't actually change the way in which I love them. So it's okay for me to set this boundary. And that's something to me that's been hugely powerful. So I'm so comfortable setting boundaries, and I'm still going to put that into the comfort and discomfort category because it is something that inherently doesn't always feel good to do. But now I don't feel the remorse and the repercussions from it because I know that in order to continue to show up as me, I need to take care of myself. The other thing that I think is often really uncomfortable, and this is going to be for every single person, that I don't want to say the word micromanaging, but if you would like to use the word micromanaging, you can use the word micromanaging, showing up a little bit messy. As companies start to scale, I think there's this like scrappy, agile, vibey thing. And then you get to a point where you become almost too methodical. And I think the too methodical and the too engineered, one, it removes all discomfort because it's procedural, you know what's next. But I think it actually starts to take a lot of the magic away, and it starts to take too much of the creativity away. I know we've touched on the fact that, like, I firmly believe that creativity is like a feminine energy thing, and like over engineering something is such a masculine thing. So, yes, have your processes and your procedures, but don't overdo it because you're probably losing some really, really, really great moments because you've become way too rigid and way too structured. So, it's okay to show up a little bit messy sometimes because, again, that discomfort is something that could actually completely revolutionize the way that you're showing up and free up space for you to show up in a better capacity. When you're going through these moments on wanting to try something new and embracing the discomfort, I recommend these things. So one of them is like microdosing the discomfort. So this discomfort can be the magical mushroom of your week this week. What is the thing that you often feel uncomfortable with? And how are you going to just dip your toe in that? Just try it a little bit, right? Set a little bit of a boundary with somebody. Try something a little bit off the cuff. Put yourself out there in stories. Talk live on your stories because you know what? They only exist for 24 hours. And you might as well. It might improve your engagement, right? Maybe it's cold emailing somebody or reaching out to somebody that you want to connect with, but you're afraid to connect with, because all of the repercussions of these actions are actually not that big. So embrace the discomfort and try something different. The other thing is, if you're going into meta, how can you push your spend that little bit more than you had planned as long as you are maintaining profitability? I'm not telling anybody to do anything crazy, but like, can you double down a little bit more on your hype because you know that you've nailed this strategy and you know that that is the time to spend? Because day 3 of the sale is not the day to fucking ramp your spend. By day 3, you've already lost the momentum, and whatever has happened, and you need to work on your owned media audiences at that point because your audience acquisition and your growth strategies have kind of died off at this point. So, the next way that I think you can kind of like practically embrace the discomfort is to reframe your fear as evidence of alignment. So, you're not afraid because you're off track, you're afraid because you're onto something. So many things this year have come into my life because I was okay with trying something different. My whole life, I feel like, has changed this year, and I've really never been happier. And I was like very comfortable with all of it. Like it was totally fine, but I wasn't fine at the same time. Does that make sense? I think it comes down to like it's not that serious and you can do this and you can try this. And I was able to identify the fact that it was discomfort and not dysregulation so that I could get through it. The other thing that I would do, and maybe this is something where you're like, I don't know what I feel uncomfortable in. I would look at two things. I'd be like, what area can I allow myself to be a beginner in again? We are probably all in ages where we know what we're really good at. How can you try something new? Whether it's something that you can monetize or not, like what is a new task that you can try? Or what areas of your life are you getting itchy feet in? Where are you showing up too small and playing too small? Because the cost of staying comfortable is huge, especially if you are somebody who is strategic and has appropriate advisement. Like, you got to risk it for the biscuit. You got to have like skin in the game. Like, these are all really cheesy things that I can say, but at the end of the day, like, they're really true. Like, you need to be comfortable with the discomfort. So ultimately, the goal with being comfortable in discomfort isn't about being fearless. It's about having the fear, but saying, like, fuck it, let's go. We're going to try it anyways. And that has been such a big thing in my life that has changed my life. The things that I'm working on and the people that I'm speaking to and the opportunities I'm going to have in 2026 are all because I did something that was uncomfortable and it started to completely transform my life. So, before we wrap up, we're going to get into our smash or pass of things. So, the first one is smash or pass saying yes before you're ready. Abso-fucking-lutely smash. I think that's like the moral of this story is say yes because you're ready. That doesn't mean you absolutely need to send it, but you are never going to be 100% ready to do things. So you just need to dive in, especially because most of the time the risk actually isn't that high. So if the worst thing that you can do is maybe feel a little bit dumb or, somebody doesn't really view the content and it doesn't engage or, anything that's quite risk adverse, just do it because you will either become more comfortable through that action or you will learn something through that action. Both are absolutely invaluable. So the next one is smash or pass, quitting when it's no longer aligned, even if it looks good on paper. So, guess what? This is a part of the discomfort thing. So, if you are currently sitting in something and you're very comfortable there, but you know you're not serving your purpose and you know you don't have alignment, and like this could be either an area in your business or maybe you work for a brand and it's your business, or maybe you want to change careers. If something is not serving you, you need to walk away from it. And you know what? That feels really uncomfortable. This could be a relationship, this could be a friendship. If something is no longer in alignment for you, you are literally wasting energy. You are wasting your life, which is your most precious resource. So quit something that you're no longer aligned with. We all have bad days. So if you're having a bad day, please don't take this as a sign to quit your job. But if you know that you felt really unfulfilled the last 6 months and you don't really know where you're going to go next, maybe take a leap of faith and don't quit straight away, but feel free to put yourself out there. Because when you put yourself out there, when you start making those connections, when you start sussing out what's going on, you never know what's going to happen. And like, you kind of can't go wrong. All you could do is start to explore what might be more aligned for you so that you can stop feeling stagnant. And the last one that I've got, which is smash or pass, is asking for feedback that you don't want to hear, which is definitely a smash for me. I think that giving feedback is one of the most valuable things you can do, and receiving feedback is one of the most valuable things. Sometimes people give really shitty feedback. It's up to you to make it digestible and figure out where to go with that. And hopefully they've thought about it a little bit beforehand, but giving feedback and receiving feedback are so important. And if you have somebody who cares about you unconditionally and you know that there's a tough topic, it's okay to open up and ask about it a little bit more. Ask them where you think things should improve or what they're noticing. If you have a leader that you love, ask them for feedback, because often it's the people who care about us who can give us feedback that are going to give us the type of feedback that it's actually going to inspire growth. And not only is it uncomfortable for you to ask for that feedback, but it's also uncomfortable for them to give that feedback. So you're both having a moment where you're finding comfort in discomfort. So that's a wrap from me today. It's a little bit of a shorter episode, but I think the point is really clear that right now we're entering the fucking crazy time. And what can you do that feels a little bit uncomfortable to go in and inspire growth? And what can you do differently? And what can you start daydreaming of for next year? Because I challenge you to figure out what that one thing of discomfort is, and feel free to DM me. I'd love to chat about it. I won't tell other people about it, but there's a lot of things that I've done this year that have been very uncomfortable, and they've definitely made me grow. So hopefully this can inspire you to do the same. If you'd like this, please subscribe, share, maybe share it with somebody who needs to hear this, because, even with me saying this out loud, I was like, fuck, I need to be reminded of this sometimes. And I still feel like I'm showing up pretty well compared to how I used to, but I think it's just a great constant reminder. Good luck with everybody kicking off the Click Frenzy sales next week. And I'm so excited to chat to you in the next couple weeks as we bring on some very exciting guests. Bye.